I just realized I was robbed of the truth. Mexico is doing so much better than the USA.
Bruh.
Hey guys, how's it going, and welcome back to another episode. Today's episode will be the first of many that we shot out here in Guadalajara. We recently came back from a week-long trip of this magnificent city, and well, I have so much footage that I recorded and I can't wait to show you guys. While we were out here in Guadalajara, I realized very quickly how amazing of a city it was. I quickly realized how much money there actually is out here in Mexico. Not just money, but opportunity. And well, again, as I was saying, Mexico is doing so much better than the USA. Not only is the economy doing better, but the culture is amazing. The people here are nicer. And well, you know, just everything about this city is leaps and bounds a lot better than anything that I could find in the USA these days. For some of you guys that are new out there, welcome. I usually film most of my videos in Mérida, Yucatan, and so filming out here in Guadalajara was something that was very new to me as well. And just like you are going to be shocked and awed by everything you see, well, so was I. So were we. That, again, the longer I'm here in Mexico, the more I realize I was robbed in the USA of the truth about Mexico. Not just about the truth about Mexico, but again, I was robbed about the truth about so many other things. I thought the whole time that, well, you know, we were living in the best country in the world, only to quickly realize the longer I've been out here in Mexico that couldn't be any further from the truth. And every time we travel anywhere to other parts of Mexico, whether it's Oaxaca, Mexico City, in the Yucatan, or in this case out here in Guadalajara, I realized even more about, well, you know, again, how awesome Mexico truly is. Just like you out there in the audience, I was lied to about how dangerous Mexico actually is, how poor Mexico was, how uncivilized, you know, Mexico was. And the longer I'm here, the more I realize that not only was I lied to, but I was completely wrong about everything I know about Mexico. Visiting Guadalajara was very, very eye-opening to me, and even my wife that is Mexican, but she comes from another part of Mexico. We saw a city that was booming in a country that was also booming economically, culturally, and in so many other facets. While we were in this beautiful city, we realized that the quality of life for the typical Mexican here is above and beyond, well, anything that you could find back home in the USA. I myself could not believe, you know, how much opportunity there was everywhere, how much growth there was going on in this city that was already a giant city to begin with. We got to see so many Mexicans living the Mexican dream in real time. So much money being made, being spent, and in action. Everyone out here was so educated, so curious, and so receptive of us. In this giant city, you know, when they saw immigrants, you know, when they saw foreigners like us, well, basically, you know, they were actually more curious than anything else. They were not threatened in any way, you know, whether we were going to come out here and gentrify them, because, well, as you guys can see, you know, from us walking around, and you're going to be seeing in future videos, well, you know, this city is already gentrified, and it's been gentrified by the people that live here. And this city, you know, no matter where you go, is, again, you know, just a very, very high quality city. The people here were extremely happy. You know, they were extremely economically solvent. You know, they have, you know, all kinds of mass transit available to them. They have amazing parks, amazing walkways, you know, amazing lives. That was really inspirational for us to see. While we were out here, we were actually staying in the area of Zapopan, and we were really close to the center of Zapopan. We had no idea that we were in one of the richest neighborhoods out here in Guadalajara. I mean, we just thought that it was a beautiful and amazing part of the city, only to realize later on that we were also in one of the richest parts of the city. But the reason it took us a while to figure it out is because as we were walking around and we were shopping, you know, whether we were, you know, eating breakfast, lunch, dinner, you know, shopping around at the local convenience store or the mom and pop, you know, clothing store, we were seeing that the prices of most things Well, they were affordable. Well, because, I'm coming from Merida, Yucatan right now, and we are starting to see the effects of inflation, and we're starting to see the effects of, how things are just getting a little bit more expensive, out here in this part. So when we came out here to Guadalajara, we were expecting things to be expensive. And as we were looking around and seeing how, beautiful and nice everything was, well, again, we were expecting to pay a pretty penny for that, only to realize that that wasn't the case. It didn't matter where we went. We were constantly surprised by how affordable everything was. Now, granted, out here in this part of Mexico, you really, really, got to be, in tune with the Mexican culture. This is a giant city, with a very strong culture. And, out here, you really got to know Spanish, and you got to really embrace, what it is to, be Mexican. Because since this city is huge and has a lot of industries and a lot of agriculture and a lot of ways in which, the typical Mexican can make their money, they don't really rely too much on tourism. Sure, there are areas that we're going to show you guys later on in other episodes where, of course, they rely heavily on tourism. But for the most part, most of the city, well, they have a strong industrial base, a strong financial sector, a strong agricultural system, and so on and so forth. And you quickly find out that this city is very well sustained. It does not need any, outside influence in order for it to grow. In fact, it's grown on its own. It's the second most important city in all of Mexico, or third and most important city in all of Mexico, behind Mexico City and Monterrey. Besides the economic prosperity that we saw all over the place here in Guadalajara, another thing that we were surprised with was the safety. Sure, a lot of people kept warning us about how dangerous Guadalajara was, how dangerous, things, could be. Be careful not to walk in certain areas at certain times of night, and so on and so forth. But the reality is that, well, we felt extremely safe. Now, of course, just like any major city, one has to practice, common sense and be aware of their surroundings, and also just know that anything could happen. Of course, it's like any other city in any other part of the world. But the reality is that as we were walking around, as we were, exploring the city, we were realizing that this city is extremely safe with a very capable police force. There was all kinds of safety features, that were throughout the city, and it made you feel extremely safe no matter where you were. Now, of course, things are a little different for me. I come from Miami. I lived in LA. I've been in dangerous places. And, to me, well, of course, I felt extremely safe in this city. But, for my wife and her cousin that both come from Merida, Yucatan, which is, supposed to be the safest city in Mexico, well, this city was also extremely safe. It was comparable in safety. Again, it is a larger city. It's almost 10 times as big as, Merida, where I come from. But still, for such a big city, it felt very safe. Sure, there are, things like petty crimes that happen, just like anywhere else. But for the most part, as long as you practice situational awareness and you're constantly, using common sense and not doing anything too stupid or, again, just resting on your laurels, then you will be totally fine. You got nothing to worry about. Another thing we quickly realized was how clean this city was and how prideful the people here were, and how everything basically functioned. It was controlled chaos. Yeah, things were kind of crazy in some parts of the city, downtown or whatever, but everything just functioned and ran like a well-oiled machine. Not only were the people extremely proud of their city and their Mexican heritage, but they were proud of their culture, their food, the way of life, the quality of life, where they lived, everything about the city. In fact, everyone we talked to, every single person that we talked to was very happy to be from that part of Mexico. They were extremely happy, to share their culture, share their city with other people with outsiders and everyone else. But again, more important than anything else, we asked everyone, hey, would you consider leaving Guadalajara or moving somewhere else? And all of them said no. They all loved it so much that they barely even leave the city to begin with. They just love it out there, and every time they go visit anywhere else, they realize, how amazing they actually have it there in Guadalajara, which was, an amazing thing to see because, again, we talked to Uber drivers, we talked to people that, that have taco stands, on the side of the road. We talked to people that had, again, clothing stores, people that were driving BMWs and obviously, had, very fancy jobs and lived in very fancy homes. And it didn't matter who we talked to, everyone was extremely happy in that city, and the quality of life was extremely high for most Mexicans. And the reality is that, Guadalajara is not necessarily an anomaly out here in Mexico. A lot of Mexican cities, have similar situations where things are pretty awesome. And again, just going back to what I was saying at the beginning of the show is that, well, I was robbed of the truth. The whole time, as being an American living in the USA, I always thought that people in Mexico were miserable. They hated it out here, that they thought that it was crazy dangerous, that they never had any kind of opportunity to grow or to, make any kind of money or any kind of impact, on anything, on their lives, on their financial situation or anything like that. And it couldn't be any further from the truth. And especially, when I was out here in Guadalajara, we really, really got to see it. Because again, when we went to Mexico City, every time we went there, we were usually around, the center of the city, and we were there for, art events, that Christian had to, attend. And, it was basically, we were there for work. We were only there for a few days, and we would just go and, do the thing that we had to do, and then we would go and hang out with their friends. But we really weren't exploring the city too much. But the few times that we did explore the city in Mexico City, again, we were also in shock and awe as to, wow, what an amazing city this actually is. And again, coming from the USA, there's no city really that I can think of in the USA right now where I don't feel, any kind of danger. I'm always feeling danger no matter where I'm walking in the USA. And well, when we were walking around downtown Mexico City, downtown Guadalajara, even downtown Oaxaca, everything felt, again, extremely safe, and everyone seemed very happy. Now, of course, we're going to be talking about in other episodes as we're, walking around and showing you Guadalajara. We're going to be talking about things like, well, gentrification and the growth of, Mexico as a whole, and how other, foreigners, immigrants from the USA are affecting life in Mexico or not affecting life in Mexico, because, well, there's a lot of propaganda out there that is basically telling, Mexicans themselves that, well, a lot of the bad things that are happening, a lot of the price increases that are happening, a lot of the displacement that's happening, a lot of the gentrification that's happening is, to the fault of the immigrants that are coming from the USA, again, AKA other Americans. But the reality is that couldn't be any further from the truth. And when you are in a giant city like Guadalajara, and you can literally count, the other Americans or foreigners on one hand, and again, in a sea of millions of people, you quickly get to realize, oh, wait a minute, Mexico, is, very healthy economic wise. And the reality is that, the gentrification that's actually happening in certain spots in Mexico, well, it's other Mexicans that are causing this gentrification. It's, again, if a gringo, okay, an expat, an American immigrant is coming to Mexico, and they are, and they are settling in Mexico, well, and there are business owners that are catering to them and raising their prices because of them. Well, again, that's Mexicans that are doing this. Again, remember, the business owners are Mexicans, the people that are renting, their homes out are Mexicans, and they're just taking advantage of the dollar that's coming in, the euro that's coming in, and so on and so forth. But as everything in the world is changing economically, and the Mexican peso keeps getting stronger and stronger, and the US dollar and other currencies are getting weaker, especially compared, to the Mexican peso, well, Mexican is just going to keep getting richer. They're going to have even more opportunities for their citizens. And you, as an immigrant coming out here to Mexico, well, now you're going to really be an immigrant, and because your currency is not going to be worth as much as it used to be. And, well, you might actually have to get a job, or you might actually have to start working out here, whether you start your own business or you're working as a digital nomad or whatever it is. And you're gonna have to work a lot harder than what you might have thought that you would have had to work, simply because, well, as the Mexican economy keeps getting stronger, as the Mexican financial sector, industrial sector, agricultural sector, and so many other aspects of life in Mexico just keep getting better and better for the typical Mexican, well, they're gonna be relying a lot less on the US dollar, and that's just a fact. And they're also going to be tolerating bad behavior from gringos, expats, foreigners a lot less, because they don't have to rely so heavily on tourism or rely so heavily on foreign money coming in or foreign investment or whatever it is. And so out here in the Guadalajara area, we are surrounded by a bunch of expat, foreigner, immigrant hubs. Not too far from here is Puerto Vallarta. They got Ajic, Lake Chapala, and all these areas. Well, they've already been gentrified to the point where, you know, some of the Mexicans, you know, they don't even recognize, you know, some of these areas anymore, simply because the Mexicans that have lived there have seen this giant influx of American, Canadian, European foreigners that have come out here to retire or just to, you know, live a better life out here. And a lot of the Mexicans have taken advantage of the fact that, well, they're coming in with these strong currencies, and they've raised their prices and, again, gentrified the area to the point where, you know, a lot of the Mexicans, you know, they're not happy, you know, because, well, things are in English, or the prices of rents, homes, basic food items, basic items have increased exponentially. And so therefore, you know, now all of a sudden these areas that, you know, were once just, you know, basic tourist hubs have now become something completely different. And, well, you know, there's things that are in English all over the place. And some of these Mexicans are not happy with it. And they're not, you know, very receptive to what, you know, has happened to some of these areas anymore. And why is that? Well, because, again, since they have to rely a lot less on, you know, foreign individuals coming out here and spending their hard-earned money in Mexico, well, you know, now they want these places for their own. You know, they want to enjoy Puerto Vallarta. They want to enjoy Lake Chapala, you know, and Ajic and other places. And so, you know, now you're starting to see, you know, a giant kind of shift when it comes to a lot of these things. You know, again, even Oaxaca, Puerto Escondido, Mérida, you name it. Things are changing dramatically. But one thing we realized out here in Guadalajara is that, again, this is a giant city that has many sectors that are doing extremely well and is a very well diversified economy. And therefore, they really, you know, don't need any kind of, you know, gringos coming out here to spend money, because they themselves are making money. They're creating a lot of opportunities for the same Mexicans that live here. And, well, these same Mexicans have a lot of money to spend, and well, they're spending it, and you can see it everywhere. And so as, you know, this growth and this boom is happening, you're seeing every single sector is being affected by it. Because, again, we went to restaurants where, you know, we could get a pizza for like around 65 pesos, which is around like $4, 3 to 4 US dollars, you know, depending on the exchange rate at the moment. But 65 pesos or 55 pesos, well, that's still 55 or 65 pesos. So the thing is that when you're coming out here now with a US dollar, well, things are just getting more expensive, even though the prices of things haven't really changed much. But for the typical Mexican, well, you know, the prices are sometimes even going lower, because now there's more competition, since more people can open businesses and there's more money that a typical Mexican has, and they can go out there and spend it. So they have more spending power. On top of that, not only are they making more money, but their currency is even stronger. And so, you know, when you combine all these things, all of a sudden, well, the typical Mexican, they don't even have to go to a foreign country like the USA or Canada anymore to make, you know, that currency and bring it back. In fact, they can stay where they are, and they get to make really good money, and they get to really enjoy life and not have to worry about how much money they're going to make, or if they're going to be able to pay rent or not, simply because the economy is so strong that, well, again, even if you're just working as an Uber driver or working at the 7-Eleven, or even have your own little taco stand, or whatever it is you're doing, you're making pretty good money that you can, again, support a family, pay your bills, and, again, live a very high quality of life. So imagine someone that's working for, a big, Fortune 500 company out here in Mexico, or a big manufacturing plant, or you have your own, agricultural situation going on, or whatever it is you're doing, where you're actually making more money than just a typical bottom rung, well, imagine how much more you're making and you're able to contribute now to the local economy. And so with that being said, you get to see it all over the place. You get to see amazing parks in every neighborhood. You get to see so many happy people, no matter what they're doing. Again, you're going to see in later episodes as, we go on mass transit, we go through other neighborhoods, and you get to see, just regular Mexicans, and they're very happy as you can possibly be, living a normal, regular life. So, another thing that we were lied to, or, again, we were robbed of the truth of was, the fact that, well, you need to have all these rules and regulations and all kinds of law and order in order for a society to function. Well, again, as you guys are going to start seeing, in this video and future videos, this is all controlled anarchy in a sense. Government intervention is very minimal. There are not as many rules and regulations and laws as there are in the USA, and everything is running smoothly. In fact, they're running a lot more smoother than anything that you could find back home. And why? Well, because people are not reliant on, the big government, to tell them what to do. They can govern themselves. Again, you get to see it all over the place, where a lot of people just take it upon themselves to make sure that the streets are clean, that the parks are clean. They take pride in what they do. And, just so many factors, that, you don't need, some law or some rule to, again, regulate, the quality of what they're doing, what product they're making, or, how to keep their house clean, or, keeping their street clean, or their front yard clean, or anything like that. Again, people just take it upon themselves to do it themselves, and nobody needs to tell them what to do. They just do it. And a lot of it, just simply comes from the fact that, well, if everyone's very, very, very happy, and the quality of life is extremely high, everyone wants to keep it that way. So everyone knows that they got to do their part. And Mexico has a strong culture of responsibility, of discipline, of love and passion for what they do, love and passion for life, for family, for other loved ones. And again, you get to constantly see it all around you, not just in this city, but in most of Mexico. And each part of Mexico is completely different. Out here in Guadalajara, we're out here in the mountains, and they have all these industries, to make this city rich. But again, it's not just rich money, it's about rich in life, as we've talked about in other episodes before. Again, out there in the Yucatan where I live, yeah, it might not be as much money for the typical Mexican, but most Mexicans out there, they're rich in life. They're very, very happy that they get to sleep in their hammock all day if they want, or they can get to go fishing and just fish enough to eat that day, as opposed to go out there and have to work 8 to 9 to 10 hours, to fish, all day long, in order to, pay the bills. There's a lot more freedom in Mexico to, again, do what you want with life. If you just want to be a simple fisherman, if you just want to be a simple janitor, if all you want to do is sell a few tacos, or you want to do the bare minimum, you can do that. Or, again, if you want to be captain of industry, if you want to have multiple businesses, if you want to be, again, an extremely successful businessman, entrepreneur, whatever it is you want to do, you can do it out here. The sky is the limit. The Mexican dream is alive and well. So, of course, as a person from the United States of America, it is very bittersweet to see everything that's going on out here in Mexico. First of all, it makes me very happy that all these American ideals, all these ideals from, my home country are alive and well out here in this part of the world. And that American dream, well, the American dream is no longer in the USA or Canada. No, the American dream is now in Mexico. So again, you might as well start calling it the Mexican dream. And not only is this Mexican dream alive and well to the typical Mexican out here, but now it is something that a lot of people from around the world, the USA and Canada included, are coming out here to Mexico in order to achieve their own Mexican dream and to achieve, all these things that they've always wanted to achieve, all these things that they were promised, at one point that they could achieve if they worked hard enough and they dedicated themselves enough, to whatever it is that they love to do, whatever craft that they enjoyed. That's like a pipe dream in the USA these days, not so much in Mexico. In Mexico, you could become a huge success doing, again, whatever it is you want to do. All you got to do is work very, very hard at it, but you can do it. The dream is alive and well out here if you really want it. And again, as we have discussed in previous episodes before, that dream is something very different to everyone out there. Again, you can simply, live off of, a few fish that you capture every single day, or again, if you want to work extremely hard, you want to grind yourself to the bone, and you want to, make as much money as you can and achieve, living in a mansion and having a, fancy Land Rover or whatever it is you're doing out there, you can do it out here. You can definitely do it out here. Every single thing that you want and you desire is out here, but you just got to go out there and you got to get it. You got to go out there and make it happen. But the thing is that you got to assimilate. And right here in Guadalajara, again, you get to see, how much money there is, how much opportunity there is. But you got to come out here and you got to bring something to the table. And you also got to know the language. Let's not forget about that. Just like if, an immigrant is coming into the USA and they want to be extremely successful, well, they got to learn English. Well, if you're going to come out here, you got to learn Spanish. Now, the one benefit you have is that, well, you'll know English and you'll know Spanish. So you'll know both languages. So you'll be bilingual, and you'll also have a giant skill, a very useful skill that will be very valuable out here in this part of the world. But again, it's not going to come easy. There are no government handouts. No one's going to care if you're struggling or not. It's all about how much you can do, because again, everyone out here in Mexico, well, they're basically in the same boat in one shape, form, or another. And they all got to work very hard in order to maintain their quality of life. They got to work very hard in order to have the life that they have. And, most Mexicans are more than happy and very proud to do what they got to do in order to achieve that. So if you're coming out here, just be prepared that you got to assimilate, and that's part of the assimilation process. And with all that being said, guys, I really hope you guys enjoyed today's video, which was the first of many that I filmed out here in Guadalajara. I got so much awesome footage that I can't wait to show you. And well, if you stay tuned, you will be able to see it. So again, I want to thank all of you guys very, very much for all your love and all your support. And I really hope to see you guys here on the next one, where I get to show you more of this wonderful and amazing city that, well, again, we had the pleasure of being in for the past week. And again, I want to give a big shout out and a big thank you to all my patrons, to all my members, to every single one of you guys that has helped contribute something to the show, whether you're just leaving a comment or, again, you're leaving a like or whatever it is you're doing, you're sharing the video. It's all very helpful. And again, if you really like this kind of content and you want more people to see it, you already know what you got to do. Just, again, do your part. All you got to do is, if you like this kind of content, don't forget to please like, please subscribe, please share, please hit the bell icon, but more importantly than anything else, please stay awesome. Thanks again for watching, and we'll see you guys on the next one. Bye, guys.